Christmas. The season of joy, festivity, and family gatherings. We decorate trees, exchange gifts, and sing carols, but have you ever stopped to wonder, where did these traditions come from? What secrets lie behind the Christmas holiday that we all know and love? Well, get ready, because today, we're diving into 10 untold secrets about Christmas that will change the way you think about this beloved season. Let's start with the first few. 1. Christmas wasn't always celebrated on December 25th. Did you know that the celebration of Christmas wasn't always tied to December 25th? In fact, the exact date of Jesus' birth is never mentioned in the Bible. The decision to celebrate Christmas on December 25th was made centuries later, and it wasn't because it was Jesus' actual birthday. The Roman Empire had a festival called Sol Invictus, or the Unconquered Sun, celebrated on the 25th of December. It was a time to mark the winter solstice and the return of longer days. Early Christians, seeking to blend their holiday with existing traditions and make Christianity more palatable to Roman citizens, adopted this date for the birth of Jesus. In essence, Christmas became a symbolic celebration of the light of the world during the darkest days of the year. So, the date we now associate with Christmas wasn't chosen because it's historically accurate, but rather because it held powerful symbolism. 2. The Christmas tree has pagan roots. Think about the Christmas tree, a symbol of Christmas joy and festivity. But did you know that the origins of the Christmas tree go much further back than the Christian tradition? Long before Christmas as we know it, ancient cultures revered trees, especially evergreens, during winter. The Egyptians, Romans, and even Vikings saw evergreen trees as symbols of life and renewal, especially during the cold, dark months. In medieval Germany, people used to decorate trees during the winter solstice as a way to celebrate the return of longer days. The modern Christmas tree, as we know it, became popular in Germany in the 16th century, where it was adorned with apples, nuts, and candles. It wasn't until the 19th century that the tradition spread across Europe and then to the United States, in part due to Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, who were famously photographed with a decorated tree in Windsor Castle in 1848. And thus, the Christmas tree, much like Christmas itself, is a blend of ancient traditions and Christian symbolism. 3. Santa Claus has a surprisingly complex history. Who doesn't love Santa Claus? The jolly old man in a red suit who slides down chimneys and leaves presents under the tree. But how did this figure come to be the Santa we know today? Santa Claus' origins are tied to the historical figure of Saint Nicholas, a 4th century bishop from what is now Turkey. Saint Nicholas was known for his kindness and generosity, often secretly giving gifts to those in need. Over time, his legend spread throughout Europe, where he became a beloved figure of Christmas. However, the modern version of Santa Claus, with his red suit and white beard, is largely the creation of 19th century American culture. In the 1820s, the writer Washington Irving began to popularize the character of Santa Claus in his stories. But it was the Coca-Cola company in the 1930s that cemented Santa's current image in the public consciousness, thanks to their iconic advertisements featuring a warm, jolly Santa enjoying a Coke. Santa Claus, it seems, is a blend of folklore, historical figures, and marketing genius. And yet, we continue to embrace him as the magical figure who brings joy to children around the world every year. 4. The tradition of gift-giving is older than you think. Gift-giving is perhaps the most anticipated part of Christmas for many, but the tradition has much deeper roots than just modern commercialism. While we often think of gifts as being a part of the Christian tradition, the practice of exchanging gifts during the winter season has existed long before the birth of Jesus. The ancient Romans exchanged gifts during the festival of Saturnalia, which was celebrated in December in honor of the god Saturn. During Saturnalia, people gave presents to one another, including figurines, food, and candles. Similarly, many cultures around the world have exchanged gifts during midwinter festivals as a way to honor the gods, bring good fortune, or simply spread cheer during the darkest time of the year. So, when you give or receive a gift this Christmas, remember that you're participating in a tradition that dates back thousands of years, one that transcends cultures and religions. 5. The Christmas carol tradition has a darker history. Christmas carols, those cheerful songs we sing to celebrate the holiday, are a cherished tradition. But did you know that caroling wasn't always the joyous occasion we know today? In medieval times, caroling was more about the community coming together to perform songs, often for money or food. However, caroling had a darker side in its early days. In some areas, it was common for groups of people to go door to door, demanding offerings from homeowners. Those who refused could find themselves at the mercy of mischievous or even violent carolers. Imagine that, the Christmas carolers who serenade you with songs of joy were once the same people who might have knocked on your door demanding a holiday tribute. Eventually, caroling became more wholesome and festive, especially as Christmas gained popularity in Victorian England, where the tradition of singing carols began to take on the cheerful tone we know today. 6. The first Christmas cards were a marketing scheme. Sending Christmas cards is now a beloved tradition. We exchange festive greetings, well wishes, and sometimes even family photos with loved ones. But did you know that the very first Christmas cards were actually part of a marketing campaign? In 1843, Sir Henry Cole, a British civil servant, commissioned the first ever Christmas card. The card, designed by artist John Callcott Horsley, featured a family celebrating the season. It was a commercial success, primarily because it was marketed to the wealthy elite as a new and elegant way to send holiday greetings. The cards quickly gained popularity, and by the 1860s, they were being mass-produced for the general public. So, when you send your Christmas cards this year, remember that it all started with a savvy businessman looking to cash in on a new holiday trend. 7. Christmas was once banned in America. Imagine a world where Christmas isn't celebrated. Hard to picture, right? But that's exactly what happened in colonial America, where Christmas was once banned. In the 17th century, the Puritans who settled in New England had very strict religious views, and they believed that Christmas should not be celebrated at all. They felt that Christmas had too many pagan associations and too much focus on indulgence and revelry. In fact, the Massachusetts Bay Colony passed a law in 1659 that fined anyone who celebrated Christmas. It wasn't until the early 19th century that Christmas began to make its way back into American culture. It was during this time that the Christmas holiday began to be seen as a time for family, not just for religious observance. Christmas was eventually legalized in Massachusetts in 1681, but it wasn't until the 1800s that it became the holiday we know today. Christmas may seem like a holiday steeped in tradition and history, but as we've learned, it's a celebration that has evolved over centuries, blending old customs and new innovations. As we continue our journey through the untold secrets of Christmas, get ready for even more surprising revelations. Stay tuned for part 2 of 10 Untold Secrets about Christmas. We've already uncovered some surprising facts about Christmas, from the origins of the Christmas tree to the unexpected history behind Santa Claus. But there's so much more to this holiday that we often take for granted. In this second part of our journey through Christmas history, we'll dive into the hidden stories and surprising facts that shape the holiday we know and love today. From feasts to folklore, the secrets of Christmas are waiting to be uncovered. Let's begin. 8. Christmas feasts were once just for the rich. When you think about Christmas, it's hard not to imagine a large festive feast, a table laden with roasted meats, pies, and all kinds of delicious treats. But the truth is, Christmas feasts, as we know them today, were once reserved almost exclusively for the wealthy. In medieval Europe, the upper classes would host elaborate feasts to celebrate the holiday. These meals featured a variety of roasted meats like boar, beef, and venison, along with extravagant desserts like fruit tarts and marzipan. On the other hand, the poorer classes had little to feast on. They might have only a simple meal of porridge or bread, if they were lucky. The tradition of a grand Christmas meal started to shift in the Victorian era, thanks to the influence of Queen Victoria and her husband, Prince Albert. As they popularized Christmas as a family-centric holiday, the idea of a festive, abundant meal became more accessible. This democratization of the Christmas feast is part of what made Christmas the joyful celebration we know today, a time when families, regardless of wealth, can come together to share in a special meal. 9. The Christmas pudding has medieval origins. Speaking of feasts, let's talk about one of the most iconic Christmas desserts, the Christmas pudding. Rich in flavor and tradition, this spiced treat is often served with a sprig of holly on top, but did you know that the Christmas pudding actually dates back to medieval England? The earliest versions of the Christmas pudding, known then as plum pudding, were not sweet at all. In fact, the original recipes called for meat, grains, and dried fruits, essentially making it a kind of savory porridge. It was a hearty, filling meal that could be prepared for a large group, and it was often eaten during the feast of Stir-up Sunday, the last Sunday before Advent. By the 16th century, the recipe for plum pudding began to change as sugar and spices became more widely available. Eventually, the dish became sweeter and more like the dessert we know today. It wasn't until the Victorian era that Christmas pudding took on its modern form, with ingredients like brandy, suet, and a mixture of dried fruits. And while you may be used to enjoying your Christmas pudding on Christmas Day, traditionally, it was often prepared weeks or even months ahead of time. Families would add coins to the pudding mixture for good luck, a tradition that some still follow today. 10. The real origin of Christmas. Now, let's talk about something that's often misunderstood, the abbreviation Christmas. Many people think Christmas is a secular or even disrespectful way of shortening the word Christmas, but in fact, it has deep roots in Christian history. The X in Christmas comes from the Greek letter chi, which is the first letter of the Greek word Chi-Rho iota sigma tau, Christos, meaning Christ. Early Christians used the Greek letter chi as an abbreviation for Christ. In fact, it's still used in religious symbols, such as the Chi-Rho, which combines the letters chi and rho to represent Christ. The use of Christmas as shorthand for Christmas can be traced all the way back to the 16th century, when it was commonly used in religious texts and manuscripts. So, far from being an attempt to take Christ out of Christmas, Christmas is actually a reminder of the deep Christian roots of the holiday. 11. The Christmas stocking tradition comes from a legend of Saint Nicholas. One of the most beloved Christmas traditions is hanging stockings by the fireplace in anticipation of small gifts and treats. But have you ever wondered where this tradition came from? The Christmas stocking is tied to the legend of Saint Nicholas, the inspiration behind Santa Claus. According to one of the most popular stories, there was a poor man in a small town who had 3 daughters but couldn't afford to give them dowries, which meant they wouldn't be able to marry. Saint Nicholas, known for his generosity, wanted to help them, but he didn't want the family to know where the money was coming from. One night, Saint Nicholas secretly dropped 3 bags of gold down the chimney, where they landed in the stockings the daughters had hung by the fire to dry. The next morning, the girls found the gold, which enabled them to marry. This act of kindness is said to be the origin of the Christmas stocking tradition. Today, families hang stockings for Santa Claus to fill with small gifts, but the roots of this practice go back to the generosity of Saint Nicholas, who gave selflessly to others. 12. Christmas shopping was once a church affair. These days, Christmas shopping is a massive commercial event. Retailers bombard us with sales, ads, and holiday promotions, and for many, it can feel like a stressful part of the holiday season. But did you know that Christmas shopping was once very different? In the 18th and early 19th centuries, Christmas shopping was largely a church affair. The tradition of buying gifts for loved ones didn't become popular until the late 1800s. Before that, people would often give gifts to those in need, and the church would organize charitable giving programs during the Christmas season. Gifts were often homemade, or items like food and warm clothing were donated to the poor. It wasn't until the rise of department stores in the late 19th century that the concept of Christmas shopping as we know it today began to take shape. In fact, the first department store to hold a Christmas sale was Macy's in New York City, starting in the 1860s. This is when the concept of buying elaborate gifts for family members truly took off, becoming the holiday shopping tradition we're so familiar with today. 13. Christmas was once banned in America. Imagine a world where Christmas isn't celebrated. No trees, no gifts, no carols. Hard to imagine, right? Yet, that's exactly what happened in colonial America, particularly in New England, during the 17th century. The Puritans, who settled in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, were very strict in their religious views. They believed that Christmas, with its pagan roots and its association with indulgence and revelry, had no place in a proper Christian society. As a result, Christmas was banned in the colony. In fact, the Massachusetts Bay Colony passed a law in 1659 making it illegal to celebrate Christmas, with fines imposed on those who were caught engaging in Christmas festivities. It wasn't until the 19th century, largely due to the influence of immigrants, especially from German-speaking countries, that Christmas started to gain acceptance again in America. By the 1850s, Christmas had become a recognized holiday, and it soon spread across the country. But the idea of banning Christmas as a holiday, especially in a place like New England, shows just how deeply the celebration has evolved over time. We've now uncovered more of the untold stories and hidden truths about Christmas, from the surprising origins of the Christmas stocking to the fascinating history behind Christmas shopping. As the holiday continues to evolve, so too do its traditions. But at the heart of Christmas, there's always one constant: the spirit of giving, kindness, and togetherness. We've explored some of the surprising and lesser-known secrets of Christmas, from the origins of the Christmas tree to the strange history of Christmas shopping. But the story of Christmas isn't over yet. In this final part, we'll reveal even more untold secrets that are bound to change how you see the holiday. From the real origins of popular Christmas songs to the hidden meanings behind holiday symbols, you might just discover a whole new perspective on your favorite traditions. 14. Jingle Bells wasn't written for Christmas. We all know the cheerful tune of Jingle Bells, a song that has become a staple of the Christmas season. But did you know that Jingle Bells wasn't actually written for Christmas at all? The song was penned by James Lord Pierpont in 1857, and its original title was One Horse Open Sleigh. It was written for the American Thanksgiving celebration, not Christmas. Pierpont, a composer and musician, was inspired by the popular winter activity of sleigh riding. The catchy tune quickly became a favorite during the holiday season, and over time, people began associating it with Christmas, especially as it gained popularity in Christmas parades and holiday festivities. So, while Jingle Bells may be a Christmas classic now, its original purpose was to celebrate winter fun, not necessarily the Christmas holiday. 15. Mistletoe has ancient and pagan origins. The mistletoe, a holiday tradition that encourages couples to kiss under its branches. But this plant has a much older and more mysterious history than just being a romantic symbol during Christmas. Mistletoe was used in ancient cultures, particularly by the Celts and Norse, in their midwinter festivals. To the Celts, mistletoe was a symbol of peace, protection, and fertility. The Norse believed that mistletoe had magical powers, particularly because it grew in the winter, when most plants would die off. In one popular myth, the goddess Frigg, after losing her son Baldur, made a vow that no one would ever be harmed by mistletoe. As a result, mistletoe was seen as a symbol of peace, and if enemies met under it, they had to make peace. The tradition of kissing under the mistletoe likely originated from these pagan beliefs. In the Victorian era, the custom became popular as a way to promote friendly social interaction during the holiday season. If a couple stood under the mistletoe, they were expected to kiss, an act that is still celebrated in many parts of the world today. 16. The legend of the Christmas elf comes from Norse mythology. Santa's helpers, the elves, are a beloved part of Christmas lore, but have you ever wondered where they come from? The tradition of Santa's little helpers is deeply rooted in Norse mythology. In Norse mythology, there were mischievous and sometimes helpful creatures known as elves or trolls. These creatures, known for their magic, often interacted with humans in strange and magical ways. Some of them were believed to be skilled craftsmen, capable of creating extraordinary objects, like Thor's hammer or other magical weapons. As Christianity began to spread across Europe, many of these pagan traditions were merged into Christian celebrations. Elves, originally mythological beings tied to winter and magic, eventually evolved into the jolly, helpful figures we know today, who assist Santa in making toys and delivering presents around the world. So, the modern-day image of Santa's elves is a product of centuries of folklore, magic, and storytelling that blend together to create the beloved characters we see today. 17. Christmas lights are a symbol of the Star of Bethlehem. One of the most beautiful sights of Christmas is the glow of Christmas lights that adorn homes, trees, and streets around the world. But have you ever stopped to think about what these lights really represent? The tradition of decorating with lights at Christmas is actually a symbolic gesture that harkens back to the biblical story of the Star of Bethlehem. In Christian tradition, the Star of Bethlehem is the celestial body that guided the wise men to the birthplace of Jesus. The light symbolized hope, guidance, and the arrival of the Savior. In the 17th century, candles were placed on Christmas trees as a symbol of the light that Christ brought into the world. Over time, electric lights replaced candles, but the meaning behind the lights remained the same: they represent the light of Christ in a dark world. So, when you hang up your Christmas lights this year, you're not just participating in a fun tradition, you're connecting with a centuries-old symbol of hope and divine guidance. 18. Silent Night was written in a small Austrian village. One of the most cherished Christmas carols of all time, Silent Night, has a beautiful and humble origin story. The song was written in 1818 by a young priest named Joseph Mohr in a small village in Austria. Mohr, who was deeply moved by the peacefulness of the Christmas Eve service, wrote the lyrics to Silent Night in just a few hours. However, there was a problem: the church's organ was broken and couldn't be played during the midnight service. So, Mohr turned to his friend, Franz Xaver Gruber, a schoolteacher and organist, to compose a simple melody for the song. The result was the beloved carol we know today. Silent Night was first performed on Christmas Eve of 1818, in the St. Nicholas Church in Oberndorf, Austria. Since then, it has become one of the most popular and widely sung Christmas songs in the world, performed in over 300 languages. 19. The Christmas pickle tradition has German roots. One of the more unusual Christmas traditions involves hiding a pickle ornament on the Christmas tree. According to tradition, the first person to find the pickle gets an extra gift or good luck for the coming year. But where did this tradition come from? Despite popular belief, the Christmas pickle is not a widespread German tradition, but it is thought to have German roots. The exact origins are unclear, but there is a legend that says a German immigrant in the US began the practice in the 19th century. The story goes that a German soldier, while imprisoned during the Civil War, asked for a pickle as his final meal. In gratitude for his survival, he began hiding a pickle on the tree, and whoever found it would receive a special gift. The Christmas pickle tradition has spread in the US and beyond, and though its origins are somewhat unclear, it remains a fun and quirky holiday activity for families. 20. Christmas is the most stressful time of year for many. While Christmas is often thought of as a time of joy and celebration, for many, it's also the most stressful time of the year. From the pressure of gift-giving and holiday shopping to the demands of hosting family gatherings and cooking elaborate meals, the holiday season can feel overwhelming. In fact, studies show that the holiday season brings a significant increase in stress levels, with people feeling pressure to meet expectations, maintain traditions, and create the perfect holiday experience. In some cases, the stress of the holidays can lead to mental health struggles, including anxiety and depression. So, while Christmas is a time of joy for many, it's also important to acknowledge the challenges that come with it and take time to care for yourself and your loved ones. Remember, the true spirit of Christmas is about love, togetherness, and kindness, not perfection. As we've explored in this final part of our journey, Christmas is full of fascinating secrets, from the true origin of Silent Night to the quirky tradition of the Christmas pickle. But above all, what makes Christmas special is not just the traditions we follow or the history behind them, but the way we come together, to celebrate, to give, and to share moments of joy and love. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of the untold secrets of Christmas. May your holiday season be filled with warmth, light, and the true spirit of the season. Merry Christmas.